Hi guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, we'll look into a scenario in which I continue my alternate History of the World series. As I always say, a scenario. Oops, not really a scenario. But if something crazy happens, Poland is angered by the Russian states. The USSR really is what this is. I think this is the communists. But anyways, they annex what was Ukraine. This is Poland infuriated. They demand reparations. The communists say, well, no. We want all the land. And dictatorships and whatever else they teamed up with. So they declare war on the West. The West is infuriated. The Green Team decides to take this as a good opportunity and wait till they're a bit better distracted to enter the war. So, their strategy is already started. But, as I can guess you understand, despite heavily Russian armament, some nations are just not standing. As well, there's not many Red Team allies in Africa, so it seems like Africa is not a stronghold for them. As well, it never became in this timeline. With this coming as a surprise to the Russians that they're having so much failure in the north. Also, that shouldn't be there. But they also have failure in Yemen, with the Saudis taking it out. Eventually, this Kenya state surrenders and Somalia does. But with Russia having success in the Middle East. They're the nation with the best way in. Turkey does it. And Russia starts two fronts. Along with their allies, Yugoslavia and Austria-Hungary starting fronts. And yeah. Managed to push into Germany. And they push deep into Finland for the first time ever. And with them moving into northern Japan, but Japan manages to make stalemate. With them moving into Korea, they managed to make stalemate. Although the West does open a front in the south. With the Green Team not wanting to cause any problems, they stay out for now. And with eventually a stalemate managed to form in the Middle East front and in the European front. But nobody was expecting a thing. When Green Team forces turned on everyone. They declared war on everyone. Nobody was ready. They're trying to get more land is what their, goal is, but doesn't work. With the first front happening in northern South America and the second front in southern North America. Also, keep in mind, the fronts aren't probably at the same time because it's kind of hard because it's not like I'm simulating it. Or anything. With Colombia falling, but they're managing to hold the front there. And they managed to quickly take the capital of Argentina and Chile. But eventually they get their troops situation together. And they take their capital back. But that's what the front, they're occupied a lot of land. From South Africa, well, you may be wondering, how does this front go? Well, it actually goes very well. And then they move into the Democratic Republic of Congo and take most of the southern part. Because these are pretty strong nations. Although they lose a few allies. Well, some weren't ready for the war. They lose those guys. And they lose their occupation there. Their lands there. But they make up for their loss of land in invading Iran and taking a huge chunk out of Iran. They also take a huge chunk out of Russia. But according to China, they got this front all under control, which they don't really. With India moving deep into Chinese territory. They even managed to move deep into Siam. With even taking their capital. And so far, while the European offensive continues, with them moving deep into Germany and into northern Finland and down into Norway and Sweden. But they're holding the front good. Except now, because Norway and Sweden are getting invaded from the south. But, like, they eventually get into a stalemate, with most of Italy gone and a big chunk of Egypt gone. But then they move to this front to push India back, which goes about as well as you would expect, occupying all of Europe. With American forces arriving, they see that if they can hold that front stalemate, but the European front, they need to stop quick. And they have a good opportunity. So they land in Italy. That goes too slow. They take these islands. So then they go into the European plain. They move past the Rhine River. And they move into southern, Scandinavia. With Italy being re-liberated, and then Germany being re-liberated, and then parts of Poland. And, India's front goes pretty well at this point, with the Soviets trying to stop on two fronts. With the Americans taking advantage of the situation, basically making Japan into the second Japanese empire. As Japan pushes China back, and Korea does it. Oh my god, I just said Korea while I was looking at Japan, and Japan while I was doing Korea's front. That's fun. With landings happening across northern China, where, this part. And that landing happens here by Americans and Canadians and whatever else is in North America. Japan moves up there, and they manage to make the front up here. Although this is about 2000 almost. Crazy how the years have progressed. The moving up China's coast, eventually China collapses in on itself, with them establishing a China that's pro-America. I'm having to deal with India still, but Germany sees the opportunity of invading to its south. And they do the second Anschluss, yay! And they slowly advance in, but they then get to the capital. The capital gets moved to Budapest, even though Hungary is demanding an end to this war, full war, and they even let soldiers peacefully walk in their land. Because they didn't want destruction. This being a major loss for the Soviets, they lost Yugoslavia and Austria-Hungary to German, American, Italian, and French forces. With this area being seized, with all of Bulgaria falling, with the Ottoman forces, or if that's what you would call it still, with them succeeding in an offensive here. And then over here, they have another offensive. All the African nations work together to do this. And sending as many forces as they can. With them managing to take out their puppets. And take out Angola. Because Angola is pretty weak from the civil war they faced. South Africa had a problem. Well, this is what American forces manage to break this, and they start sending forces after they break it. They break the front, they then break the frontier. Once they start breaking the fronts, they decide to go in through their two weaker nations. With them making a Peruvian offensive, managing to capture all of Peru, and they make another offensive doing this. You may say, why is there no counterattacks? Because, there isn't yet. With Brazil managing to mount a counterattack. Why wasn't there any counterattacks in China? Because, they got too weak quick. They quickly got weak. And they take out the southern part of Brazil. With Brazil not realizing, but they're not able to create any successful offensives at this point. And once you stop being able to make counter-offensives, you're just surrendering. And they do that. Let's go to the South Africa front. Yeah, South Africa's in a bit of trouble. Although they do have enough strength to make a counter-offensive, but to how successful it can be. Because I'm using basically the last of their resources. But the forces deciding to go even deeper, but South Africa has a counter-offensive. With them eventually surrendering after seeing how failure this was. With the Americans deciding to occupy Sri Lanka, just to slow their advance. With Egypt moving in, and Saudi breaking the stalemate. And well, I think, and with Turkey surrendering, then Iran surrendering over to the team they want. And India just where they are, hoping that they'll get peace and not war with the West. As they stopped attacking the Western nation. With Russia getting kicked out of Poland, and they move back so they can bring some troops to the main front that's about to open. Although this is going to be worse than World War II. Even though they started at World War I and had a war and had World War II. But I think it was different for some reason. Although if Russia gets pushed beyond its brink of collapse, surrenders over to Western forces. With India's front collapsing. And them getting fully kicked out. With all the countries knowing long-term conflict with India wouldn't be good. But if they can get India to just stop, that'd be good enough, they say. With them advancing in the southern India, eventually India sees reason and decides that they will surrender if they get annexed Tibet, Nepal, and Bhutan. After they do that, they decide to surrender over. And let's see a peace treaty, guys. We will start with the Eurasia Treaty, then we'll go to the Africa, South America Treaty. So let's see how a lot of nations. Austria-Hungary was split up, and Czechia and Austria was split off, but they got some land taken because both areas wanted the war. But this area didn't, so they just kept their shape. With Ukraine becoming an independent nation, Kurdistan, and Yugoslavia, there's two of them now. And well, we got Iran. We got Pakistan. We got the weird Tanu-Tuva, because why not? Now let's see. India stays the same, except they lose Pakistan. And this is a big Pakistan, honestly. And even in this timeline, you couldn't get away from your enemy, India. Take away the European nations, because I'm not having any more to do with colonialism. Now, let's go to Africa and South America for the next treaty and see if there's many nations released there. And of regaining land. But in South America, Brazil is split, Colombia is formed, and Paraguay loses land. Unfortunate, because Paraguay in this war lost 80% of their men. Yep, exactly. And as you can see, the world's quite different. We don't even have an alliance highlighted. We're basically at a fresh start now. Hopefully dictators don't come in the next episode. And there's 2 more episodes left of this season. As it's now 2000, and we'll be at 2020, so that'll be season 2. If it's the current era. And that's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, and non-daily subscribe. Bye, guys!